Welcome to Owl About Games, a podcast where we talk about all different aspects of board games, from design to mechanics to board game news, including updates and information for games from Open Owl Studios. I'm your host, Natalie, and I'm joined by Brendan. So sit back, relax, and let's talk Owl About Games. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Owl About Games. I know it's been a while, but we came back with a really big episode.
We're back.
I'm here with Brendan.
Hello.
Hey, hope you're doing well. This is a big episode after our Monday announcements that thankfully everyone was pretty excited about.
Very exciting.
Yeah, so just the outline for today's episode, we're going to do our regular spiel about our other games and where they are in the process. And then our main topic will be going through our lineup of announcements that we made for 2025. And then answering some of your guys' questions, some that were sent in and some that maybe you guys will ask live. So for now, I think we'll just start with the Mythwind reprint, I guess, for that status, or whichever one you want to
hey, I think I can just quickly run through. We can get to the fun stuff right away, but let me just quickly run through the status on all the projects. So Stars 1.5 and Mythwind, the Friends and Family expansion, they're on the same timeline. They left port before Chinese New Year, which is good for a couple things. One of the good things is we don't have to pay the tariff on them. We got out of China before that. And so that is exciting. We're expecting to start fulfilling in March. They'll land hopefully in a couple of weeks here on the west coast of North America and throughout the rest of the world in the following weeks after that. So those are those two games. And then Stone Saga and Storyfold are actually kind of following a similar timeline to each other. Basically, their files are getting wrapped up this month, and then off to the printers and our localization partners. And both of them are expecting to deliver in the summertime. So lots of stuff happening. 4 games getting delivered, and 4 games getting crowdfunded.
Yep. So, that was as quick as a run through as I think we've ever done. Sometimes.
It's all the stuff.
Not as much. Yeah, nope. I mean, most everything is out the door, so it's mostly just waiting at this point, which I know is not as much information, but one of the most exciting parts for us anyways.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean, more exciting stuff now, so we can start talking about our 2025 board game announcements for Open Owl, and we can start wherever you want, Brendan.
I think let's go chronological. So let's chronological in the sense of when we will be crowdfunding them. And we won't kind of give specific dates because they're a little bit up in the air, but we can kind of give timeframes and what's first and what's not first. Yeah. So first, I think we do Sprites and Sprouts. Sprites and Sprouts. Look at this wonderful game. Make sure to go follow it on Kickstarter. You can click notify on launch. This is, for those of you who don't know, who missed the announcement, Sprites and Sprouts is a 1 to 5 player farming game designed by Manny Vega, who created Flamecraft. And it is it's a game that kind of takes place in the Mythwind universe, but it's a different game for Open Owl Studios because it's a single play session in around 90 minutes, 60, 90 minutes, depending on your player count. Kind of more of a classic, medium lightweight Euro game. It's an interesting departure for us. We love the idea of letting players play as the sprites from Mythwind while you're helping to kind of plant crops on the farmer side and 10 crops. I know Natalie just play tested it yesterday. I don't know how much we want to give away on the specific mechanics.
No.
And stuff, but it's shaping up nicely. It's it's still kind of obviously it's in development, but it kind of takes, as far as when you're thinking about like, hey, how complex of a game is it? It kind of sits, I think it sits in between Flamecraft and Wingspan, somewhere kind of in that spectrum of like, hey, how heavy is it? So it has a little bit more going on than Flamecraft. Although I've only played Flamecraft once or twice. Natalie, I know that you've played it more. And then but maybe not quite as much as Wingspan, but it's still like there's still some fun kind of shape combos. Basically, you're trying to fulfill these crop challenge cards where you're fulfilling different shapes on your board. It has some of that's like a little bit of like Cascadia vibes. To what's going on, but you're all working on a central board together, and then there's like this really fun like roulette mechanic where you're trying to guess where yeah, go ahead.
I had no idea that was going to be part. Again, like going into the game, there was just it's farming, it's Mythwind themed, it's the creator of Flamecraft, all this stuff. But there were a whole bunch of different surprises when I got into the game that, again, I thought it was going to be maybe light, but I definitely say it's light to medium because there's definitely some crunch there. And the roulette type of mechanic where there's just a bit of deduction was just an added little bit. There's a bunch of just little bits that you can think about and you can like get efficient with like an easy get, like you'll be familiar with a bunch of the mechanics.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you can get in pretty quickly. You're kind of, there's a little bit of an action selection mechanic happening, and those actions upgrade throughout the game. You unlock new skills to kind of make those actions a little bit more powerful. And with the with the roulette mechanic, it's interesting because it's like you're playing through days, and at the end of the day, the farmer comes out and harvests some crops. And you're trying to guess what tile that the farmer harvests in, and there's a bunch of ways where you're throughout the day you kind of get a closer idea to like where the farmer's going, but still has a fun little guessing mechanic, and it's a good kind of thing. Everyone's kind of competing at the same time. So this one is exciting. We're going to be crowdfunding it in Q2 2025. We'll have a obviously more exact date in the next couple months, and then also on delivery. I expect this. Don't quote me, but I expect this to be delivered in a year or less from when we launch. There's a few outstanding development pieces that we want to make sure that are good, and and all that stuff. But I think this will obviously games like these this come together a lot quicker than our other style games. So
yeah. I'll let Sprites and Sprouts will be a little different from Stone Saga.
Oh, just a little different. Yeah. But it's a great way for people to kind of join in. And there's a great opportunity for people to join in here. And then one thing on this, Manny is looking for some playtesters. So I don't know if you can, I don't know if we can show the link or if you can copy and paste the link into the comment section. So we're looking for some playtesters, and just for a single session with Manny, there's a form to fill out. So if you're interested in playing this game, getting some feedback, perfect. I might even I'll post this on BGG as well. I posted it.
I can post this in the description to this video after if we want as well. So
great. So that's Sprites and Sprouts. We're excited. It'll be kind of a fun, different style game for us.
Yeah, I mean, we're always doing something different. I mean, we did solo last year, right? And then we've got Mythwind. Talking about Mythwind.
Yep.
We could, I guess, go into this one.
Yeah, great. So that Sprites and Sprouts will be our first campaign. It's happening on Kickstarter, and then we have a couple new characters coming for Mythwind. We have the herbalist and the shepherd. The herbalist is designed by Daryl Andrews and Jenna Beasley. You'll know Jenna from her YouTube channel Board Game Garden, and Daryl from he's designed a bunch of games. Sagrada's probably his
All
most
of the
popular.
things.
Yeah, Sagrada's probably his most popular game that he's designed. So they teamed up, and they're creating the Herbalist. Really excited about that character. Cool, it's again, it's kind of like, hey, what, another take on a Mythwind character, but from other designers. And then excuse me, the Shepherd is designed by the Nikki Valens, who designed Mansions of Madness and Legacy of Dragonhall. They are a fantastic designer. A lot of creativity that they brought to this character. It's fun. There you get there's dogs. You have like sheep dogs that you're kind of using as you're herding around the sheep. And that it's interesting. We'll talk more about the Shepherd later. In future podcasts, but it might be the character that's kind of it's mixing things up the most on the player board. It's kind of like it's still the same dimensions of a player board, but it's reworking where things are inside of it. So it's very exciting. And then also,
which is neat. I mean,
also, like we haven't talked too much about this, but we're going to have a mini story expansion, and this will be a new way to engage a story, and Nathan is working on this, and he has a couple ideas on kind of tweaking our system a little bit, using the same kind of adventure goal and event cards, but telling a story in a little bit of a different way. And so I again, this is still a little bit of a work in progress, but we want the storytelling to be a little bit more dynamic in the future going forward with Mythwind, and we think that there's a way to do that through kind of adventure cards feeding into gold cards, which then feed into event cards. So it's like just kind of connecting them in a little bit more of an intentional way. And so really excited about this. We're aim for this will be after Sprites and Sprouts. So sometime after Sprites and Sprouts.
Yeah, I was like, we don't need to give that much estimate. It's just Sprites and Sprouts first, and then we'll get to this one. So this one, later in the year. I mean, and then obviously our Mythwind is going to fulfill soon, so then people can have that game and play with it a little before we go to this campaign, right? So
yeah, exactly. There should be a few. If Mythwind's fulfilling in March, there'll be a handful of months before we launch this campaign.
Yeah.
And
and then
just a couple fun things with Mythwind. It will be like in distribution properly. So there will be a bunch of stores across North America and I think Europe that will have the game. I know Barnes & Noble will have the game in like 50 of their stores. They're doing a little bit of a trial. And so, we'll start kind of feeding into some of the marketplace with the game. I'm really excited about that. Cool.
Yep. This one's pretty exciting. And then the next pretty exciting.
Next one. Oh, wait, go back to the main image. Oh, wait, it's just rotating. That's good.
It's it's a rotating one. Here, I can go here if you want and do this one.
No, that's okay. Go back to game found. So
okay.
Yeah, so Threshold is it's kind of our next big box game. I think the box in the render is probably, well, it is too small for what the game's going to end up being, but really the concept behind Mythwind kind of stems from our love of kind of like of MMOs and of like RPGs. So games like Diablo or Guild Wars, World of Warcraft, Lord of the Rings Online is a fun one for me growing up. Path of Exile 2 being like a new one. These games they do a lot of things that I don't think a board game has been willing to attempt. We've seen a lot of kind of dungeon crawly, campaign driven RPG style games, and like I love all of them. I have I'm excited to get the Elder Scrolls game whatever
Yeah,
the
that's a
chip
big
theory
one
game.
I see people getting.
I checked
Yeah.
my peer later shipping, and it's coming Tuesday. So it's 25 pounds. It's
Oh,
huge. Uh,
oh,
I know, and so I'm excited, like really excited about that. Loved playing through Gloomhaven and a bunch of the Stars of Icarus would fit the mold too in that style of game. But I think there's a whole opportunity for a type of game that leans a little bit heavier into like the gameplay loop that you would get in an MMO or in an ARPG, which is for me, I can sum it up in kind of three spots. It's you explore, you quest, and in that quest there's like combat, explore, combat, progress, explore, combat, progress. Right? It's this idea that you're always getting stronger, you're always finding new things to do, you're doing the thing, and then you're upgrading your character. That kind of core loop. Yeah, some games do it, but I don't think games have done it in like the way that well, they haven't done it in the way that Threshold is going to do it. And
yeah.
we're going to take a lot of lessons learned from our Mythwind tray system. We're going to kind of bring it over to Threshold. We want people to be able to look at their box or look at the shelf and like, hey, I want to go questing for like half an hour. And so they can pull off, Threshold, run a couple quests, upgrade their character, maybe do a little bit of crafting, and put the game away. Or we
Yep.
want people to, plan a weekend with friends, like, hey, let's do some like epic, like high level dungeons. And so, you get together, and instead of just going for half an hour, it's like, hey, we'll do this like 2 hour epic experience, where we're kind of pushing our characters to the limit. Massive rewards at the end of it, and then you can kind of you do the same loop. It just feels a little bit different, and that's my favorite thing about these games, about the video game types, because they let you kind of engage how you want to engage, when you want to engage. So you
Hmm.
can just log in and yeah, run a dungeon, or you can do a more epic of an experience. And so there's a lot of that we're going to capture, and then we're going to use our kind of our tray technology stuff to be able to let players kind of set up and get going in 2 minutes. And this was like it was a standout feature with Mythwind. And I think there's a
Yeah.
reason why Mythwind got a lot of playtime for a lot of people, because they could put it away and set it up
Yeah.
without like without worrying
Like
that it's
that's
gonna.
definitely one of the barriers in so many of those big games,
Yeah,
right? That to cut that setup time to almost nothing
yeah,
changes the way you approach the game.
and in the past, if games have tried to do that, they minimize the experience, right? The experience is just not as
Yep.
deep. In
Yep.
some ways, it's like when people try to make a 4X game, and hey, you can play a 4X game in 90 minutes. But you actually can't. There's a reason why Twilight Imperium takes 8 hours to play, because the 4X experience is an experience that actually just requires time.
Yep.
Same thing with these kind of epic dungeon crawling type experiences. They do require time, because you need that progression, that leveling elements. But because of like the complexity of the components, and how people have done it in the past, it's just, there's a barrier, right? Where it becomes, okay, hey, this is what we're doing all night. We're gonna
Yeah.
commit the next 3 to 4 hours to do this. So really excited about that. The other kind of main thing with Threshold that I'm excited about is the character customization progression element. The game's still in development, so a lot of this is still work in progress.
Hmm.
But we have some really neat ideas on how you can customize your character as you level up. One of the things that we're aiming for is, hey, can we capture that classic level 1 to 40 experience, right? So can we give players like this kind of ongoing leveling up mechanic, where they're seeing their character become more powerful, where they're doing all this fun stuff. And then so the character progression, and then the other big thing that we will definitely talk more about in the future is how we're going to handle itemization. um uh
Mm.
itemization is going to be a big one in the best way, because anyone who's played these games knows that getting that perfect gear or loot drop is kind of like a magical experience. Again, I don't believe that any board game has done that well, and so I'm excited for us to kind of show what we have for that. But yeah, so Threshold, we're aiming. For me, in my mind, this one is kind of being aimed when or around when Stone Saga delivers. That's kind of what I'm thinking for the crowdfunding launch of this.
Yeah, one epic game for another. Once the Stone Saga one lands and that epicness happens, to have this one come out, because this one's gonna be a big one. And then what else did we announce? So the other thing we had in our announcements was our Tempest Workshop announcement. So I wasn't sure if we were going to.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like Tempest is, I've played their prototype several times, different iterations. Game is shaping up great. It's going to be a very cool adventure game. Lots of fun mechanics. They talk a little bit about the theme in this alternate history, 1930s. You're members of the secret society, right? You're explorers. You're doing all this kind of fun stuff. It's just a great classic adventure game, but with a lot of interesting mechanics and some of the neatest story stuff I've seen so far. We're going to do some proper announcements when we get closer. We'll have some artwork, we'll have some gameplay, we'll have a lot of stuff. But yeah, this one's shaping up well. So the team at Tempest Workshop, they're bringing their history to it, and so it's going to be great.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see more about that one as well. But that's probably chronologically how we're going with 2025 as well, for the games that we're going to have come out or do campaigns for this year. I guess
a couple things on that. So it's interesting. I know sometimes as people who are backing games, it's like, whoa. Maybe they're looking at us like, wow, there's so many, you guys are doing so many games. I think let me, I'll talk about a couple things. One, so last year we did 2 campaigns, right? Did we do 2 campaigns? Yeah, we did 2 campaigns.
We ended up with 2.
And I actually think the previous 2 years we've done 2 campaigns. So 2 years ago we did Stone Saga and then SOA 1.5, and then last year we did the Mythwind reprint
Mythwind and Storyfold.
This year, we're delivering 4 of those games. 2 of them are on boats right now. So it's like we have a cadence of delivering these games, and we're getting faster and faster. It's also our team, our team doubled in size over the past year. Just our internal team, right? We work with a lot of external contractors, designers, artists, people, but our internal team doubled in size. And so that just kind of, it means that our capacity has doubled, or it should mean that our capacity has doubled. So that's a big thing. But then the other piece is, it's really like, hey, what is the scope of the games that we're releasing? So if you step back and you look at the 4 new games for this year, Sprites and Sprouts, while it's a game, but like the scope of a Sprites and Sprouts compared to the scope of a Stone Saga, like those are just 2 very different development experiences. Because Stone Saga, to playtest properly, you're committing 20 hours to play the entire, or actually probably more, to play the entire campaign. To playtest Sprites and Sprouts, like a couple hours. And so just the experiences are different. So this year we have Sprites and Sprouts, which is like a normal smaller game. We have the Mythwind reprint, which are 2 expansions for an existing game that we have external designers for. Threshold, which is a big one. And then we have the Tempest Workshop game, which is designed and created by an external studio. So even though it looks like we're like ramping up quite a lot. It's just kind of like it's a step.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we won't be busy. We'll be busy.
Oh, we'll be busy.
We'll be busy, but it is just a step. And then another thing, I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of games coming out, a lot of backers who back a lot of games or have a lot of games. If I'll just say, if you're interested in even just one of our games this year, I would recommend getting the open LL shipping. So it's $2.50 a month. And that will give you free crowdfunding shipping on all of our games. And a kind of a really neat thing with that is so let's say you're going to go all in on Threshold. You're like, this is the game for me. That $2.50 a month will be cheaper than the all-in shipping price. But then it kind of gives you the opportunity, if Sprites and Sprouts comes out, and we'll have a retail and a deluxe version, and you see the retail version, and it comes with some some Kickstarter exclusive stuff. You're like, oh, you just get the retail version without having to pay the shipping cost, and you still kind of get the Kickstarter, the fun Kickstarter stuff. And so that's what we kind of want with the OpenL shipping, just to give people the flexibility. Well, one, I think it's a value add. If you're backing one or more projects from us a year, it's definitely worth what you're paying for. But then it also I think gives the opportunity to maybe kind of explore and broaden your horizons. Maybe Storyfold, it's like, oh, I don't know if a solo game is for me, but hey, it's it's $40, like no shipping, and so you pick up that and give it a try, right? It's a little bit more, kind of helps kind of like ease into some of our other experiences a bit more that way. So
like I'd say, again, as I see, not just in our crowdfunding pages, but from a lot of other companies and their Kickstarters and stuff, one of the main points from a lot of backers is always commenting on the shipping prices. And there's some things where, as a publishing company, we can't control certain shipping. So this is like our way of finding a workable solution that we are able to provide, so that, again, if you get 2 games from us, it's a lot cheaper than probably going through the shipping costs of each of those individually, right? So it just gives an extra option when it comes to shipping for crowdfunding projects, that I think really speaks and helps to the community in ways that we're able to listen and give, as still, like, I know we're pumping out a lot, but we're still a smaller studio compared to some out there.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's so we're making a lot of games. We have partnerships, but for us, it's like, hey, we don't expect everyone to get every single one of our games, right? And that's why we make these different types of experiences. We know that someone who's going to buy Sprites and Sprouts might not buy Threshold, and vice versa. And someone who bought Storyfold, might like Mythwind and nothing else. But hey, that's cool, right? We have a bunch of different games, and this is actually one of the things I like most about our studio and about the games that we have, is that the audiences of each of our games are actually quite distinct. There's some crossover at times, but the Mythwind audience is actually very different than the Stars of Acarios audience. Even though there is like the Venn diagram, there's some stuff there, but I know the numbers and they are very different. And so I expect the same thing with Sprites and Sprouts. It's going to be a completely different audience, but still, we're staying true to our commitment of high quality games. We love our engaging art. We love our immersive worlds, and our interesting gameplay. That's going to be true regardless. And like, we don't have intentions of slowing down as a studio, and so we think there's a lot of games out there that have not been made, and that are willing to be innovated on, and a lot of experiences that we want to create for tables around the world, to bring people together, to bring people to some sweet moments. So
it's a pretty exciting year. So with that, we did have a couple of questions, and if anyone else has questions out there for what we've talked about, what we haven't talked about, anything Open Owl, feel free to ask. And I will take this off. And just taking a second for the announcements here. There you go. Okay, so
we answered this.
So we answered this one. And there's only one of them that'll be going to GameFound, so it's Threshold.
As of today.
That
we honestly we haven't
on there.
Yeah, we haven't announced where the next Mythwind or the Tempest Workshop game will be crowdfunded.
Yeah. So the next one was Steve from Co-op Guild. So super exciting announcements for Open Owl is Sprites and Sprouts cooperative. Wasn't sure based on the play count.
It's not cooperative, but it's not like, it's not super competitive and mean, is it?
Well,
there's moments.
You can choose your own adventure, but I wouldn't say like there's like, I wouldn't put the mechanic of like take that as part of the game at all. There's moments where obviously you're going to like maybe move somebody else's tile somewhere else that messes up a contract that they might have been going for, but otherwise it's not like the that element.
The cooperative nature is everyone is planting crops on the same farm, like on the same farm board, and so that but it's not a cooperative game. You're trying to get points. Person with the most points, victory points at the end of the game wins. So it's classic Euro in that way. Sorry, Steve from Co-op Guild. This is our first. Whoa, actually, that's our first non-cooperative game as Open Owl Studios. We have some games pre-Open Owl that are not cooperative. But first,
because that's what I was gonna say.
Crazy.
Why I was thinking people were messaging being like, is it cooperative? Because our whole, like all of our games have been cooperative so far. I mean, our solo game cooperative with yourself. But I mean, you can play with a partner.
Except the first game that I made, which technically wasn't a part of our company. So, okay.
So this one was just the last one. A question for next time. Just curious, why is one of our projects on Kickstarter and the other on GameFound?
Yeah, for me, it's just an audience question. Hey, who's on what platform? I recognize that, if you look at the projects that do well on Threshold on GameFound are projects like Threshold. These big experiences, epic projects, they do well on GameFound. You'd be hard pressed to find a game like Sprites and Sprouts on GameFound, and I don't know if it would do well or not. I think it would do pretty okay, but there's I have a question. It's like, okay, is the audience, is the total audience there on GameFound? So I think a good example project that happened last year was Unstable Games, Twisted Cryptids. Twisted Cryptids, one of the top campaigns last year. I think they had like 30,000 backers. Let's just hypothetically, if that game would have launched on GameFound, would it been able to reach the same audience as Kickstarter? I don't think so. So I think the ceiling for that type of game is probably higher on Kickstarter than it is on GameFound. That's a hypothesis right now. Again, I might be proven wrong. I've chatted with the GameFound people, and it's a tough decision because I do really like GameFound as a platform. But when it comes to a game like Threshold, I know that the majority of people who buy those types of games, who are interested in those types of games, are on GameFound. And if they're not on GameFound, there's a level of motivation for that backer that is different than for Sprites and Sprouts. Sprites and Sprouts, it's going to be a great game. People are going to buy it. They're going to add it to their collection, and it'll be fun to have. Threshold, on the other hand, for the people who love the game, that is going to be their lifestyle game. They're gonna play it. It's going to be awesome. Like they're gonna and that is like, you can actually just see this based off of comments on like campaigns. Take a look at like our Stone Saga comment section and compare it with like Storyfold comment section, and just like comments per backers. It's just way different because with a higher buy-in type of game, and not just price wise, like I mean like commitment, like time wise, price wise is everything. you get just the it's not more passionate, but you get someone who's like investing more of themselves into the experience. And so that person is on GameFound without a doubt, whereas Kickstarter has those people and then I think others. So that's a little bit of a long-winded answer to that question.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what the future, like there were a few articles that I know that just came out about the comparison of Kickstarter and GameFound since they just came out with their 2024 numbers.
They both had
and
their
the
own
differences.
selected numbers. GameFound didn't include TTRP like role-playing games or collectible card games in them, and so and GameFound was like only board games, and so you got some funny stuff, right?
Yeah, like I mean, you can make the data you want to make.
Yes,
but it was just like an interesting comparison that came out in the overall thinking of where's Kickstarter going for just tabletop games in general versus GameFound. So who knows what happens in the future, but right now that's kind of just the perspective that we've been able to find with those different platforms and the types of games that show up on them and do well, right? So
yeah.
So that's all of the regular questions before. That is pretty much all we have today. I don't know. It's been 2 months. Do you have like a favorite game or game that you've played since December, I guess?
I
mean, we've been busy.
Oh yeah, no. My wife and I we got the new Seven Wonders Duel game, the Lord of the Wonders Duel.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I think I have it there.
Oh yeah, right there. That was fun. Like enjoyed that. We played that. But other than that, it's been pretty busy. Been playing a lot of like a lot of Path of Exile 2
our own
dropped.
and
I've been playing a lot of our own games. So yeah, but I've been playing a lot of games, but not like a lot of like games that are released. So
yeah. So I mean, similar thing. I don't know. I played Seven Wonders Duel. I loved that. Like I like both of the games, like the original Seven Wonders Duel and the Lord of the Rings one, but it felt nicer to be like Sauron has taken over Middle Earth, right? So so excited for 2025, mostly playing our games coming up, I'm sure. But that's it for today's episode. Great. So we'll see you next month. And if you have any other questions, you can always join us in our Discord, and everything that we've talked about today, I'll make sure to have a link in our YouTube description and in our Spotify podcast when I upload that after the episode.
Great. All right. Hey, take care, everyone.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Owl About Games, a board game podcast brought to you by Open Owl Studios. You can catch us on the first Friday of every month. I've been your host, Natalie, and I'm co-hosted by Brendan, and that's a wrap on this episode. See you next month.